It says, there we go.
That's
Okay.
live,
And
and
then
we
I go
are
over here.
Ask Me Astros, and we
I don't
are
think it's going to let me do it, and I don't know why, but oh
hold on.
well.
Wait.
Wait,
Oh,
wait,
hi,
wait.
someone here.
Yes. Oh my gosh, go live. It's
Go live.
working.
It is working for both of
It's
us. Okay,
working.
fantastic.
Yay. Oh, fantastic. And I can see the comments over here. Wow, my hair looks really weird
Hello,
from the side.
Naomi. Oh my God. Naomi's
Oh,
my
that's so
my
nice.
dream circle pal,
Oh.
collaborator. Whew, everyone's this
Gabe,
is this is
hey.
this is how we're all resetting from last week.
Honestly, this is the victory I needed this morning, so I'm really happy about it.
You have been for folks who don't know the back conversation, you've had it with a customer reps this morning.
Well, I mean, it's not for lack of wanting to be in, like, I'm awake at 7 a.m., right? I'm almost
Yeah.
done with my exercising. I'm all good to go. In London, the time is different. So I figured, they'll be very awake and we'll have a lovely conversation and I'll get this thing solved. And this guy was just like, "You're not understanding what I'm saying. Ma'am, you don't understand. Ma'am, let me explain to you again." And I was like, "Sir." Let me reflect back to you what you are saying to me so that you understand that I do know what you're saying. But I'm not really sure maybe I'm not communicating well, my problem. So it's just this whole big disconnect. And at one point, I actually had to be like, "Listen, I need you to respect me right now. I know." Like he even said, like, "I'm not feeling well today." I'm like, "That's not my fault." So like, I hope you feel better after this. I hope you take care of yourself, but I need this problem to be solved. Can you help me or not? And in the end, it was a no. So I did get it solved, but it was very overwhelming. And so I needed to like decompress for like an hour. And then now this technological amazingness of Instagram actually working this week makes me feel rejuvenated. So hello, everybody. It is a good day. We've reclaimed it.
My day's just beginning, and but I love that we're beginning with a victory, and also the airline representative ma'amed you. How rude.
Man, I mean,
Oof.
it's fine. I know how I present. I get it. And like over the phone, whatever. It's fine. As long as I can work in teamwork with people and accomplish something great, I don't care. But it's when the other side of the team's not really making the dream work that makes me kind of sad.
Um, I'm wondering, I'm just adding, I'm hearing you talk and also posting.
Yeah,
Um,
no worries.
oh, I should post I wonder if I can post a link. For everybody who's watching us on Instagram, I want to say hop over if you can to YouTube, the Ask Me Astros. I mean, any of our YouTubes, Crystalline's, mine, Ask Me Astros, and people can watch this live.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's linked on my YouTube. So
Oh, yours.
Instagram
Sorry.
and the Ask Me Astros YouTube is the way to
Yes.
go. I'm on my Instagram right now, though. Very pleased with that. So, and
Yes.
I think I can see comments. Yep, I can see comments and I have it brought up here so I can interact and I can let you know what I see.
Perfect. Okay. All
Yeah.
is not lost then.
Yeah, we are all set. No one will go ignored because again, I care about the team.
You are a caring provider for
Hello,
the
pattern
people.
scribe. Good to see you.
I am just happy last week is over.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay. What happened? Just because of the emotional stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at
well,
the transits and I'm just like,
I will say this. I think let me tell you, Saturn, Pisces, Sun, what I will call that really harsh Kazemi moment, like
mm, that was a
like
lot.
the triple, the the
Mhm.
the thruple, the really
The
angry
triple threat.
thruple of planetary mating, dating. I don't know. That was a bad scene. It was like
Commingling.
commingling. I just feel that like a lot. I mean, I'm feeling it for particular reasons because of my perfected Time Lord and such. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of people had some really difficult decisions to make, a lot of difficult things they were going through last week. I just noticed with a
Mhm.
lot of people, really heavy things were coming up. If anyone can speak to that, please pop in. But I do know that again, for those around me. It just felt very heavy. Um, I don't know what you were seeing clients.
So in clients, I found a lot of people who were like at the point of what do I do? Where am I going next? What's going on? So a lot of people
Yeah.
feeling like that crux moment, which
Yeah.
totally makes sense. In my own life, the sun is my time lord. So I felt like my out of sect malefic and Mercury, the ruler of my eighth house,
Yeah.
were really coming for me. I actually said to Larry, our mentor last week, like, I feel like Mercury's warning me about the fact that they're going to be my Time Lord next year. Like these are the warning signals because ouch. And the last time, of course, that Mercury was my Time Lord, it activated that eighth house, which was interesting. And I lost two grandparents in 2 weeks. So I'm just like, this is going to be an interesting year. I'm sure many beautiful things will also happen. But
Totally. And
yeah.
it was interesting. I was um having brunch with a friend of mine yesterday who's a therapist, and she
Oh,
was just talking about like what she does as a therapist. We often like do like therapy astro talk like back and forth, and she said something just off the cuff, but to me it was just so profoundly beautiful. She was saying that like as a therapist, right, speaking
mhm,
collectively, her job, the job of the therapist
mhm.
is to teach people to learn how to suffer,
Oh,
right? And I thought that was so profound. And it really, to me, speaks to the depth. I don't think as astrologers we necessarily teach people how to suffer, but I definitely think we play a role on that journey,
mhm. Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Like her job isn't to um, provide solutions or just like make things easy, but to teach people how to go through the hard times. And I think that I just thought that was coming through with the like, the aftermath of the Kazemi, which is something really poignant.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot to think about, and it's, again, a really beautiful way of putting that. It's not how I would normally think about it, but I love it.
Mhm.
It, again, also makes me think of that 12th house where, I mean, Saturn does have the joy,
Yeah.
um, and just helping people, again, find that anchor or the spine or the
Mhm.
stability in suffering, which is, more Saturnian 12th housey kind of stuff that you would think about. And Gabe's crying face in the comments is really funny to me. But yeah, I think many of the things that last week that I got to do through
Yeah.
client work was just provide perspective that was
Mhm.
different, like just giving different words to a situation that helped change the mindset, that helped make the situation a little bit more tolerable,
Yeah.
and maybe helped you find like what you could use in the situation rather than what the situation is overbearing upon you. Um, and I think that I hope that helped. I did get some feedback that, just hearing it in a different way was a relief, which a lot of people were
Yeah.
looking for. And I think that's where counseling skills really serve an astrologer.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing too, right? Like, it wasn't that even though you were providing a certain amount of relief and like showing people a new perspective and how to navigate something, you weren't actually taking away the suffering. You were just
Mhm,
giving people tools to navigate the hard times and to
mhm.
learn how to like, we could all build up our tolerance so we can hold the weight a little easier. Um, yeah, I was just like, it was such a heavy week, and that coming out of it just felt so beautiful. And
Yeah. The idea of building up tolerance. Good morning, Hawkest Star. I think that's Jessica. I might
yeah.
get the names wrong, but hi.
Oh my God, we're getting faces. Hello, hello,
Mhm.
everyone. Um, oof. What is on your what? So, okay, I had some questions for you this morning. I was thinking
Yeah,
about. Um, I want to talk about the new moon in Pisces as what
fair.
it means for us, what it means for the world, right? Because isn't it important because it's lunation before the Aries
Yeah.
ingress?
It's
I know 'cause we're really
it's
good at the
the
mundane stuff, which
pre-lunation.
yeah.
Yep.
I just maybe the week's astrology and what you've been kind of
Yeah,
tossing
hang on
about.
a second. Whoop.
Yeah.
I'm not sick, I just have my father's nose. It's a whole generational thing. This is the nose that killed my great-grandfather, so we're proud to survive it. Speaking of, he had a sinus infection. It's a joke I like to
Okay.
play, though. Um, so yeah, this week is the lunation, the new moon anyway, that
Yeah.
occurs before. the ingress. And I think, yeah, it is the
Yeah.
one because the next one is going to be the eclipse right after the ingress, which
Yep.
is crazy to think that this is the last lunation before eclipse season as well. So it's this moment of like Pisces where I like to think the image that's coming to mind is that suspense that you can get in like embryonic fluid, where you just want to sit there in stillness and pretend that nothing exists and like your pre-existence or inter-existence for just a minute to get some silence before you have to go into the world and start navigating what's coming around. I think it's especially interesting that this is happening with the Uranus Mars square the week of Super Tuesday. So I like that the new moon is happening at the end of the week where we have that moment that's designated to help us process. And then the next day, Venus goes into Pisces to sort of encourage us to get a little bit more peace in our lives and in our relationships. Um, but I just have a feeling that throughout this week, with Mercury today, sextile Uranus, which probably explains a lot about what I've been going through this morning, and then conjoining with Neptune on the 8th, right before the Mars Uranus square on the 9th, and then Mercury going into Aries. Then we have this moment of like everything comes to a halt and we start processing. Good morning, Sarah. So I think the Pisces thing is, how did I explain this in my notes for this week? It was something about like aligning our actions and also our heart. So just knowing that we're going to be feeling like we have to go and respond to stimuli this week in a lot of ways. But if we can align our heart with all of those things and say, like, this is where my values are, so that's naturally where my actions want to go, we'll be able to trust a lot more and know that, you don't have to think 5,000 times before taking action if you already have what's in your heart clear.
Yes.
It's a long way of saying that, but yeah.
I like how you said about like the embryonic fluid and this idea of like the sort of new moon in Pisces is experienced like after the sort of waves of the more frictive transits this week of having this sort of moment for like, I mean, not possibly a bit of a melancholy moment to just sort of sit with
Yes.
it. I do feel a lot of the astrology recently with the Mars and Aquarius square, the sort of fixed story versus the mutable story where Saturn's been. I feel it's been a lot of just like outward action and then inward processing. I don't know, the whole like past few weeks is I've really felt that. And I
Mhm.
would really encourage people to think about how they're feeling in their bodies. Like with
Mhm.
me, I feel like it's been very jarring. I know that I've had a little more trouble sleeping than usual, a little like activation, especially knowing that going into eclipse season, especially these eclipses, can be really activating for people, right?
Mhm.
The Aries Libra axis, I know when it was there, like last time, I just was like not sleeping. It was just like, okay, here we go. And
Mhm.
so I don't know. I feel like right now I'm just encouraging people to really, or I want to know in the comments, right? Like, how are you feeling in your body? And even have you found any like tips for, I want to say like nervous system regulation this week?
So honestly, you know how every week I go into a little bit of astrology and I do a little bit of folk magic. And
Yeah.
this week I actually kind of leaned into what would I do if I had the feelings that I'm expecting people to have this week. And I
Yeah.
turned to my divine feminine translation of the Tao Te Ching
Okay.
because that's so about contemplation. And the
Yeah.
way those poems are written, it challenges you on the first reading. And then you have to kind of sit with it when you read it again. And you almost have to journal it out. You almost have to think about it and just let it consume you and walk with you throughout your day. And I like that because it pulls you away from the being stuck in the moment feeling. So that's kind
Yeah.
of what I've been doing of when it comes to contemplation, using guided contemplation, whether that's a meditation, whether that's, taking advantage of an incredible practice that like you can find in the Tao or something like that, where it's like, I'm intentionally going to detach and I'm going to find something that helps me do that, especially if you're a control freak like me. So.
Totally. I'd also add, I'm curious, I don't know what's coming up for me is a lot of also to needing to navigate this astrology on the level of the body. Of course, this isn't
Mhm,
everybody, but even thinking about things like, I don't know, grounding forms of meditation, like
mhm,
some sort of like I went last week, which was very nourishing to the the spa, like the sauna and like dipping
Mm,
pool, right? Like, so just to which was a really way to like just to sort of be in that water. Um, Exercise, I don't know. I sometimes I think when we get the sort of more melancholy and sort of jarring, like actually for people to think about ways that they can get it in their body. Um,
mhm.
I
Yeah.
really like sound healing. I don't know.
Sound healing is amazing. I also like float therapy, where you go into those
Yeah,
float tanks and it's like sensory deprivation and you're just floating in stillness. That's the one therapeutic technique that I've found, aside from like sound healing. Like, I don't do massages because I find them uncomfortable. I
yeah.
don't do a lot of those things. Float therapy, though, that's me by myself floating in water. Love that. You have the darkness, you have the weightlessness, and it's great. And to Sarah, who was saying, "But will I cry less this week?" If you've done enough crying to process, if you've allowed those emotions to have their time, probably this week you might find clarity and peace and acceptance. If not, you might allow yourself to cry this week. You might say, like, I'm allowed to cry.
I mean,
um,
this is my thought, like, cry until you don't need to cry anymore.
yeah,
I know,
yeah.
like, last week was just one of those weeks where I was just like, it felt cathartic. Like, I don't know
Hmm.
if Sarah, I'm here with you. It was just like I was wailing. I was just like getting it out of my body. And like, I think you'll just like know. Like, I woke up yesterday with this sort of internal calm. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know, cry until you need to cry, but also with that being said, if you need to get outside resources,
Hmm.
absolutely do that. Like if you think you're crying is like you need a friend, you need help,
Yeah.
yeah, get the
Yeah.
support
And
you need.
again, yeah, that's what I was just going to emphasize, and you said it beautifully. This is a great time to also allow yourself to receive help.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful things about the 12th house, kind of like going back to what we said before, and
Yeah.
self undoing, is that we can do that very consciously and on purpose these days. We don't wait for vices or things to come get us. We can actually use therapy, psychology, all these great techniques that we've come up with, and rely on other people. Um, yeah. So I see we've got some interesting people, potentially bots, joining from other places too.
I'm deleting that comment. So rude.
Mhm.
Sorry, like I'm looking and there's like I'm trying to block. I think it's from your ooh, can you block it on your end? I think it's coming from you.
I don't know. I'm not sure. The Facebook ones? I don't have control.
It said can't bot a ban a chat owner or moderator.
Weird.
Sorry. This
Well,
is
yeah, I can't do anything with these because I don't own the stream, I guess. I'm just a
well,
guest.
that's what it's telling me. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Can't
speaking of
post.
miscommunications and confusions,
Okay, you want to explain to everyone what we're talking about? There is
yeah,
some
so
sort
we're
of
seeing some comments coming up that are unhelpful. In probably not everybody's seeing it too. I think this is just us because it's coming from a platform that's not what everybody else is using. So the good news is you guys probably aren't seeing these, and we can just ignore them, and it'll be fine.
okay. I you know, it's someone who's like posting you know, like it feels like one of those bots that
Mhm.
hacks people's accounts, which is why I'm being so
Yeah,
well, we're taking this a moment to sort of stare into this.
yeah.
And
I
you've
don't know
had your
how.
account hacked.
No, I haven't had it hacked. I've just had people impersonate me.
Okay, okay.
They created their own accounts with a name very similar to mine and pretended to be me, which hasn't
Okay.
happened since I changed my handle. So, yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So, yeah, Sarah, I'm sorry you haven't been sleeping well. But I get it. Me either. I've been having really weird dreams, which go figure, and they've been helping me process a lot of grief that I've been dancing around. So like I see their purpose, doesn't mean I like them, but I'm trying to allow them their time and recognize them and acknowledge them as best I can. Hopefully yours are kinder.
you know what I noticed, and I don't know what's going on with your life, Sarah. I don't know your chart, but I really can speak to this
I
for my own life and in friends and clients. Last week, especially the build up to the Kazima, the Kazimi, um, the um, the triad of tears. Um,
Mhm.
I think so many people were just racked with heavy thoughts and indecision, perhaps, and really like just like, when you can't sleep at night because you wake up because your mind's racing thinking about something. I think it was sort of bringing people to sort of a crisis point. I mean, there's other things going on in the sky too, but I think that, like, if you've had your aha moment, like, I don't know, this week to me, it's not necessarily, like, less jarring, but somehow it feels like if you had your like you said, if you had your sort of big moments last week, it feels this week might be a different sort of like we had to, like, sit with all that Saturnian, and now we have to, like, go into action, but
Mhm,
what might feel a little more empowering, actually, I'm hoping.
mhm. I I think if we choose empowerment, we'll find it. So I think that the opportunity is definitely there. So it's something that's like it's one of the fruit on the tree, so you can grab it. Um, and yes, Sarah, I do know your chart. I do have it also pulled up, and I'm just like glancing at it just to see. Sarah's a member of my Patreon, and was a
Uh,
forgotten storyteller. So the hot flashes. So it's been so not sure if it's emotional. I can imagine. I only imagine, but I can imagine. Yeah.
yeah, not a hot flashes just thinking about this, just all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what are your thoughts? Okay, we talked a lot about, like, how people can cope or, um, maybe the need for nervous system regulation. What are you thinking? I know that you've been thinking about the Aries ingress chart. I know you've been thinking about these bigger things. Do you wanna share some of your insights with us?
Sure. So I'm taking notes on it, especially this week, coming up with my what I plan on sharing, and then I'm doing peer review with Larry later this week to
Okay.
make sure that what I plan to share is sound and grounded in good astrology. But when I look at the Aries ingress, some things, and I actually have my notes right here. I'm comparing it not only with just the planets themselves, but also with the Sibley chart. It is the chart of America that I'm choosing to work with for this case, just because
Yeah.
it's one of the more common ones and it seems to work out pretty well. I know there are multiple chart opportunities for America, but I'm working with the Sibley. I'm actually going to pull up the chart so that I can refer to it more directly. So give me just a second.
Yes.
And 2024, there we
Ah,
go.
I'm happy everyone
Yeah.
likes this more on YouTube. Okay.
Um, so one of the things that I'm looking at here is the situation with Mars on the IC being the ruler of the chart for
Okay.
Aries season, Moon being up in the 10th house and having that opposition there. The Moon is very opposite, separating, thank goodness, from an
Okay.
opposition with Pluto that I
Can I
find
pause
interesting.
this for a moment real quick?
Yeah.
For those who don't know, so the Sibley chart is the chart of the
Oh,
US. We
yeah.
will you explain the Aries ingress and what it is?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And JS, I don't know if I know your chart. But the Sibley chart is a chart that is used for the birth of the US. The Aries ingress is
Yes.
the chart that shows the sun moving into 0 degrees and 0 minutes of Aries, which is the beginning of the zodiacal year. So it's our New Year's. And we use this and the lunation, new moon or full moon that comes before it to understand the condition. It's the birth chart of the year. So we'll look at it and maybe compare it to the nation that we are living in and say, okay, how does the year look and how does it go along with the nation I live in or the place that I live? And what does that mean for what the year is going to be like? Difficult, easy, tumultuous. One of the things, and I hesitate to say it because I don't have that peer review quite yet, but seeing the moon in the 10th to me puts the people in a position of high influence because the 10th in a mundane Aries
Yeah.
ingress chart represents the king, and the ruler of the 10th represents the king or the ruler of a nation. And to see
Yeah.
the moon up there, which represents the
The
people, is
the
one of
people.
the indicators of the people. Just kind of emphasizes to me that, yep, it's a voting year. But that really there is a lot of influence that comes from that right now. And so, I know there's a big feeling of voting not actually mattering because of the way the system works. But I think if ever there was a year that we thought, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I take the power that I have and put it to use where I see fit, this would be a good year to do that.
Totally. I would just also say, like, it feels like a year full of all other forms of activism as well, and people really participating, I don't wanna sound like a PSA, but right, like, I'm thinking about, like, community action and things that in ways that are very, like, intimate. more local that matter as well. So, I mean,
Mhm.
that thinking about that could be, that power to the moon, to the people, to the 10th can just be,
Mhm.
so many ways. And so think about that. That's something nice too. Like think about it and whatever that means to you, whether that's like getting involved in your local
Mhm.
community, voting, what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be voting, like you said, but just knowing that people's choices can make differences in every
Absolutely.
aspect of the world. And so, what you're choosing to do within your realm of influence is impactful and honestly is noticeable this year. I think this also could indicate that movements have a big,
Mhm.
like I think back to the ice bucket challenge. How one person was like, I challenge you to do this ice bucket thing. And it raised so much money for and awareness for ALS. I think it was ALS. And
Okay.
so that one person, and then all those people who decided to join into that movement became this big authority in that realm. And so that is something that you can do. And you just look around your world and say, well, where do I want to do that? Where do I feel pulled towards? And where are my resources abundant for this? And you go for it.
I love that. When you were saying when you said ice bucket, my mind went, remember there was the milk jug challenge where people were just drinking milk and like vomiting or something really terrible. Um, Also a viral action. So it's
Mhm.
like we get a choice here. We can inspire in ways that uplift and support and nourish, or we can choose to inspire in ways that just completely like squander our power.
Yeah. Yeah. You have power. What are you going to do with it? And what feels like the right thing? Cuz just another thing I like to bring up is you have power. That doesn't mean you are pressured to use it in a way that someone else tells you to, because that's immediately giving away your power. You gave it to the person that told you what to do with it. So you can inspire in ways that are gross if you're Gabe. Oh.
Speaking to the milk jug.
Yeah.
Influencer. Ooh, influencer, influenza. Ooh, I like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're seeing the moon. That's a big prominent part of the Sibley chart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
When I was looking for the Lord of the Year, one of the first things you look at is who's the ruler of the chart, and the chart is a Scorpio rising, like moi. But you look for who's the most angular, and there's this hierarchy of signs that you go through, or
yeah,
houses that you go through about like which one's the strongest. And it was between Mars and Jupiter. And boy, I wish I could tell you that I thought Jupiter was the ruler of the year. But I do think that Mars in Aquarius kind of has the edge according to the criteria that's spelled out mostly by Abu Mashar and Masha'Allah, which is what I'm referring to
yeah.
for a lot of my sources here. Um, so it's, again, a year of, perhaps we could even say, social action, thinking about Aquarius, right?
I'm thinking
Um,
about Pluto and Aquarius too.
Yeah, yeah. Pluto is at 1 degree Aquarius, opposite the moon at 3 Leo. So it's funny because one of the things that the texts say is that the ruler of the 10th house and the sun will show you the condition of the ruler of the nation. Well, the
Okay.
ruler of the 10th house is the sun this time. So, it's
Mhm.
very much like that is there, right? We know we're looking at the sun for this. The sun is exalted. However, the sun is also in a cadent 6th house. So that's another reason why I'm like, the people are angular and in the place of the king, while the sun is in a place of, health, service, that kind of stuff. So who has the most sway this year
Mhm.
is the question that comes to mind there, where the sun is exalted, don't get me wrong, but also angular and between eclipses. Um, so it's a very interesting thing to look at and say, how much influence do you as an individual, the leader, have as compared to the people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the place of the people and the astrology going forward,
Mhm.
um, this may be more of a modern take, but I had a really the astrologer Marvel Rex invited me on his podcast to talk about eclipse season.
Nice.
And one of the things we were thinking about was, it's interesting because we've had the eclipses in the Aries Libra axis, and last time we had eclipse season, Pluto was in Capricorn. Pluto has since moved
Mhm.
into Aquarius. And I was just thinking there's something really elegant. I don't know. I don't know if that's whether it's a word elegant, but I mean, that is a word, the word I'm looking for. Something really maybe insightful about Pluto, right? Now making that trine to Libra with the South Node. There's something
Mhm.
about like Pluto bringing into me the larger conversation of like the collective. Right? Like that, I don't know, that Pluto and Aquarius really feels like like we went from the Pluto to Capricorn to the Pluto Aquarius, right? It seems like we're being asked to think about how we interact as communities and also
Mhm.
like how that supports our individual relationships with Pluto's relationship to the eclipses. I mean, this isn't, again, I'm not really probably pulling from like a traditional technique, but it does sort of symbolically speak to me. And I don't know if it speaks to you as well.
I think, because I lean towards what the traditional texts are saying. I don't
Mhm.
always go towards Pluto for that because Pluto is moving so slowly. And we do have this shift, though, which I agree with you is such an important shift that we've
Yeah.
had. And, Pluto's there this time, will be next year as well. So Pluto for Aries ingresses will be in Aquarius from now on,
Mhm.
even though Pluto dips back into Capricorn for a little bit this year.
Yeah.
So that is humanity kind of as a whole moving
Mhm.
into a whole new mindset. And I think that's really fascinating. And again, for it to be opposite the moon, it's sort of the what's the world doing? And you get this reflection of like, where am I at? Where is the world at? And what am I doing as a member of that society or as a piece of that puzzle that creates the whole? And so I think there's a lot of personal reflection that goes into the realizing you are part of a movement. You are a wave in the ocean. So like you do kind of make a difference in the greater picture.
Now, if we're looking at the Sibley chart with the moon in Leo, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I think so. I'm trying to make Luna pull up both of them, but I'm not being able to do it very gracefully. So I'm just going to do
Because
it
if we're
separate.
talking about the Sibley chart's moon in Leo, then we'd be talking specifically embedded in that chart would be the people of the US, right? Get,
Um, Typically,
right?
yeah.
Right, because it's the people, the moon, the people. And so we're speaking of the people of that nation. And
Hmm.
so it's interesting that that's getting the opposition from Pluto, which
Hmm.
is a curious conversation, right? It's like suddenly like the people maybe are inspired from that deep Plutonian well of what's going on in the larger collective. And I don't know, that kind of like symbolically, that really speaks to what you're saying about that 10th house moon and the Aries ingress chart.
Yeah. So I'm pulling up the chart right now, trying
Yeah.
to get it to do the thing. So I apologize that I'm not as focused as I probably should be. 11:06 p.m. Okay.
Do you want to
Almost.
share? You know what? We can share the chart for people if you have it
Yeah.
on your, if you, we can do
I'm
that
trying
for
to get
people.
it right here. And once I
Okay.
do,
Oh my God. Carl says Tide Pods. Yeah. Like
yeah,
name your
that was a thing.
worst viral moment of the internet.
There we go. Okay. I think I've got it. So I
Okay.
am ready to share the screen um, and
Two.
present. So let me go to share screen and I will go to Luna, United States. Okay, let me know when it comes
Yeah.
in if this works out. Okay,
Yes.
and so we can see my cursor too. Hooray! So what we're seeing is on the inside, this is what we're calling the Sibley chart. So the
Yeah.
United States of America is on the inside. The outside is transits, and I have set it to the Aries ingress, which we can double check by looking at the sun right here at 0 and 0. It's a little bit tiny, but that's the Aries ingress. So you were mentioning that the Sibley moon, which is in Aquarius here, right, has this
Oh, it's
opposition by, yeah.
we had it mixed up. So the US chart has the Aquarius moon.
Yeah, the US chart has the Aquarius moon, the ingress has the Leo moon.
Got
And
it. Got it.
for
Got it.
this, the ingress, of course, the 10th house shows us the house of the king, and that's where the moon is. In this one, it is in the Sibley's third house. So,
Mm.
yeah.
So I got it confused. In this chart, the moon in Aquarius would be the moon representing the people of the
Mhm.
US, right? And
Yeah.
so it's interesting to think about, I don't know, that
Well,
that Pluto is even by conjunction. I mean, it's going to be years and years away, but it's interesting that that ingress into Aquarius seems really fascinating for Pluto.
well, and another thing that I read in, again, Mashal and Abu Mashar, which may or may not transit translate to what we are considering a natal chart. The natal chart, I would say moon rules the people also, but we
Okay.
also want to look at the condition of Jupiter, because the first house will also be the people in a chart of a nation for this. So we're looking at the people also being the Jupiter Venus conjunction over here near the sun, exalted Jupiter in the 8th house. So that's another thing I would look at when I'm thinking about the native or the natal chart of America and its people.
I'm so bad at mundane astrology. I know that you do the Aries ingress chart,
Mm-hmm.
and then isn't there a way to decipher if that chart can be used for the entire year, or then you would then do
Yes.
like the Libra ingress chart? How does that?
Yes. So because we have the Aries ingress chart is a fixed sign, we only need
Okay.
one. It's fixed.
Okay.
If it were a cardinal sign, you'd be using all four and saying
Okay.
we just have to go, period by period. I think if it were movable, you would have to use the Aries, or not movable, sorry, mutable. You'd have to use the Aries and the Libra. So it's, do you use one, do you use two, or do you use all four based on the rising signs modality? Gabe, correct me if I got those backwards. I know fixed is fixed. I'm pretty sure mutable is 2, and cardinal, because is 4. Yeah. But cardinal is also called movable in a lot of ancient
Yeah.
texts. So I get mutable and movable a little bit crossed. Yeah, I'm pretty confident on
Wait,
that.
cardinal is called I was good. Cardinal
Yeah.
is movable.
Cardinal is movable. Yeah. But mutable is different. And Gabe agrees. So I feel good.
Yes. Like a movable feast?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there's I think of like I don't know. I'm
I think
trying to make
because
a connection. I
cardinal
have
is
no
the
idea.
pick up and move kind of
Huh?
energy. So they're saying
Yeah.
it's movable because it moves the seasons from one to the other. Each cardinal sign is the change of the seasons. So that's where they're moving.
Yeah. No, but now I'm going to think about it as like a little bit movable feast. We're
Oh,
getting it
gotcha.
going. We're bringing the party wherever we go.
Yeah. Yes.
Mm. So, okay, we're looking at this Aries ingress chart. How are you thinking about I know, by the way, if anybody has astrology questions, like please ask them.
Yeah.
This is what we're here for. We are Ask Me Astros, but we just end up talking about astrology because, well, that's what we do.
Mhm.
But if people have questions, please chime in. Um, I'm curious about your thoughts about, we're getting eclipse season, the Aries ingress chart, how these things come together. Um, Both your thoughts on, for the collective, but also I'm wondering your thoughts on how people can help, individually, how we might be able to navigate this, which feels like a very activating. This astrology feels very activating.
So you mean for 2024's Aries ingress?
Yeah, I mean, I mostly mean like this upcoming eclipse season, thinking
Oh,
about
yep.
this Aries
Yeah.
ingress chart, thinking about eclipse season, thinking about sort of all of it, and maybe how the eclipses shape this Aries ingress chart. But then also just I'm figuring out ways for people can understand the collective, but then also like helping um, with the individual experience,
Mhm.
navigating all of this, which feels daunting, quite frankly.
So honestly, I think it's to zoom in this
Yeah.
case, because a lot of what we're dealing with in mundane astrology is, oh, what is the world doing? What's going on with everything
Yeah.
around me? And so you say, okay, I know the conditions, which is the weather, right? I know what the weather is going to do today. It's going
Yeah.
to rain. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be hot. It's going to be cold. How does that feel to me? How comfortable am I in that? And what
Yeah.
resources do I need to feel more comfortable if I'm not comfortable already? And then what are my plans once I feel comfortable to do the things that feel important to me?
Yeah.
And so I would treat it like a weather report and just say, now that you know the bigger picture, zoom in. How does that feel for you? Does it feel comfortable for you? Are you looking forward to it? If not, what do you need in order to feel comfortable? And, when it comes to the eclipses, that's going to be a person by person basis. So
Sure.
it's funny because these eclipses have not been affecting me that much, but they're in my 12th and my 6th. So I'm not noticing their effects as much as people who would have them angular or having them on a sect light or something important like that. So I would look at where Aries and Libra are in your chart and just know
Mhm.
that those areas of life are going through transformations or pivot points right now. So I am taking extra care of my physical health since these eclipses. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like the most active time of my life, but it is a focus, and I'm aware of that. So, what houses are being impacted, and how can you put a little elbow grease into those areas to make sure that any maintenance that is required there, any changes that are ready to be made, that you are doing them on purpose rather than having them find you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, I mean, it feels like there's been a like what I always think of like the pickup from the story that we had the last eclipse in this cycle was the Libra, right? In October,
Yeah, there
right?
was a
That was the
Libra
last.
in October. Mhm,
Mhm, mhm. And so thinking about what stories were going on then, it feels like there might be just like a turning point in the action. Um,
mhm,
yeah, I'm thinking about all this sort of this especially last week with this sort of Pisces knowledge, right? I don't know, there's something very much speaks to me about like take the time now to really figure out your internal landscape or,
mhm,
even the landscape of those around you and just somehow like gather your energy that use that this Pisces moment for rest before like having to run into action.
mhm. Sarah,
Um,
yeah, the Aries eclipse is opposite your sun, exactly, and the Libra one will be next to your Pluto. I definitely agree with the Aries eclipse being opposite your sun, that's probably gonna bring up something noticeable for you. And I would say start understanding your energy and understanding your desire, where you feel compelled to move in the world and like what you want out of those things. Because having the eclipse opposite that, your sun, your compulsion, your energy source may give you some good ideas.
well, yeah, yeah. I would say if it's it's an eclipse, so you still have both nodes that are in action, right? And so thinking about like the south node has been going over your sun. I don't know like what degree
Mhm,
your sun is, which I don't know, like I'm wondering for that person if there's a story around their sort of solar entity or something that they actually need to get like maybe it's like the shedding of an identity or
mhm,
um, you know, even thinking like a solar figure, right? Like even
mhm,
like the shedding of somehow being yoked to an authority figure, right? Like I don't know, it feels like that's to me what that South Node Libra
mhm,
um speaks to. I'm thinking a lot about these eclipses in the sense of that like highlighting the Libra Aries axis. And I've noticed that in a lot of Libras, this has really been coming up is like where for Libra natives, right? Like or people's Libra sun heavy placements where they're more called to the action of Aries, right? Like whatever story, I mean, eclipses, it's not like we're just, there's stories beyond us, but I'm wondering if this story somehow relates to the way that you interact in relationship, Libra, right? Like, are you the kind of person who's always a people pleaser, or maybe there's been something about you that you've like part of your identity that is perhaps too diplomatic that you've been holding on to, and wondering if there's that sense of like, I'm actually speaking up for myself for the first time and how that impacts my relationships. So, yeah, I'd be curious to know if there's a story around that for you, Sarah, that has feels like it's been kind of going on for a while. Yeah. Have you noticed that with these eclipses, Crystalline, a lot of relationship stuff?
yeah, not actually. So it's
Okay.
really cool to hear it from you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just in clients I've noticed a lot of people like coming in, especially like during the last bouts of eclipse season coming in and saying things. It was a lot of actually people with heavy Libra placements being like, I'm
Mhm,
finally standing up for myself for the first time, or I'm really feeling like
mhm.
I don't like I've been a people pleaser, or this relationship just isn't working and I've been putting it up for so long. And they're really trying to access that Aries point.
Yep.
Um, and then having to renegotiate. And I'm an Aries sun, and I think there's been a lot of like, oh, in what ways do I need to, maybe um in the ways that I can be selfish, how does that affect my relationship? I would say selfish isn't the word, but in what ways can maybe my s- constant sort of independence, how does that affect my relationships? I don't know. I think it's on the personal level, it feels like there's a lot of conversation happening around that.
Mhm.
And
Sarah seems to be agreeing with you. Yeah.
Sarah's like over it.
Yeah, that stopped at 40. Yeah, 40 is an interesting time as you're approaching that Uranus opposition, and it's like, I'm just done. Like, I don't need this anymore.
It feels really good as someone who has reached that milestone, right? Like, going out and just, like, not caring.
Mhm.
It's really wonderful. Like, I just go out and I'm like I went to a couple shows this weekend, and usually when I was younger, like, I'd be, like, anxious, like, "Do I look
Mhm.
okay? What are people thinking about me?" And it's really great when you can walk into a room and say, No, I'm probably a mess, and I could care less."
Except I've been out with you multiple times and you never look like a mess because you use one color and layer it and texture it beautifully, flawlessly without trying. So I
Thank
can
you.
attest that you're just really good at it.
Thank you. But yeah, it's good to go out. I like, yeah, life, um, what is it? I can't remember who I'm quoting, but this idea that we need to reframe the midlife crisis is the midlife
Mhm.
awakening.
Agreed. I was
I
actually
love
so I'm featuring, Prometheus the Awakener by Richard Tarnas in my
Mhm.
little newsletter that I did for patrons this week,
Yeah.
and I love the idea of Uranian things being considered more awakening, which
Uh-huh.
is the Promethean theme that Tarnas argues for the significations of Uranus, rather than which, by the way, fun fact for everybody, did you know Uranus was originally called George? And then was changed to Uranus or Uranus. And now they're trying, someone proposed changing Uranus's name again. And I'm
To
just like,
what?
that checks. I can't remember what it was. I saw it last week and it was something that I had a hard time pronouncing. It was more on the Latin end. And I was just like, good luck with that. But also, Uranus would, like Uranus would be the only one to like go off brand. So,
Sarah says, okay, yeah, George, because that was okay. I'm here's my Mercury and Pisces. I'm literally trying to speak to two things at once. There's a
yeah.
comment, I'm going to speak to it, but George, going back, because George was the name of the king, right? It was King George,
Yeah.
and that's where,
It was originally going to be George's planet. There was a Latin term that would
yeah.
translate to George's planet, but everybody called it George. And there was a German astronomer eventually that was like, how about we name it Uranus for the father of Saturn, since Uranus was discovered beyond Saturn? Gabe, you have brought back the George name from Looney Tunes in my psyche. I did not realize it was buried there, but there it is. Yeah.
Oh, I
That
got
in
you.
Looney Tunes cartoons, there was always a George. I remember that. Wow. Yeah.
I'm listening to my car and it broke up. Did you say George? We said
Yes.
George.
Yes. Uranus used to be named George. Yeah. Well,
Herschel,
Herschel was the one who discovered it. Yeah.
which is the one I can't, oh God, which is the one that was discovered? Was it Herschel, brother, sister? Am I getting, which is the brother sister combination that we leave out?
I don't know.
Was it George Herschel and his sister, or what is it? Which
I
planet? Or
Yeah, I'm
oh,
not sure.
okay, I have to
That
look. This
sounds
is
like
worth up.
Neptune, but or was it I think Pluto was originally named by a little girl.
No,
If
it
I
was, but
remember.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
think. Hold on. I'm like, ooh, unless Gabe is talking to me in the comments here in this,
I'll
because
keep an eye
there's,
on that.
um, I hate it when we leave the ladies out of history. Okay, sister, which is what is the planet I'm thinking of? Gosh. Carolyn Herschel. Okay, here we go.
Oh, that would be Uranus then.
Yep, Carolyn Herschel was a German. I'm reading from Wikipedia, by the way.
Yeah.
Doing some deep research here. Was a German-born British astronomer whose most significant contributions to astronomy were the discoveries of several comets, including blah blah blah. She was the younger sister of astronomer William Herschel,
Mhm.
whom she worked with. I think the stories that I heard is that they actually discovered it together, and she sort of gets left out of history. Caroline
Yeah.
Herschel.
So I found a source that adds to this. So he was an astronomer and a composer, made significant contributions to understanding the cosmos. His collaboration with his younger sister, Carolyn Herschel, was instrumental in advancing astronomical knowledge. So discovery of Uranus. While observing the night sky, William noted a new object in Gemini. So that's funny if a brother sister found it while it was in Gemini. verification and consultation of other astronomers, the object was confirmed to be a new planet. So she was probably involved.
Yeah. The stories I heard she was. So
Yeah.
I just want to make a shout out to Carolyn Herschel.
Yeah. That's cool.
Maybe we rename it Carolyn, not
Right?
George.
Or pick a goddess. Get
Yeah.
another non-asteroid named after a goddess.
Oh my God. Okay. I want to have a god next week. I want to have a goddess talk with you.
Okay.
I was just thinking, anyways, I've been thinking bring a lot of Greek mythology. And I was
Mhm.
thinking about, because Athena is the one who came from Zeus's head.
Yes. Yeah.
So I've been thinking about that a lot lately and so many thoughts.
Mhm.
But I'm just looking, I'm like, wow, we're like almost at time. This has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah, we've been on a journey with this one, which I really like. We've covered a lot.
I like that we landed. I think this is a great piece of punctuation. We had this big bubbling conversation, and then we land on Carolyn Herschel and goddess conversation, which I
Mhm.
think, like, if we think about it as a sort of a divinatory move, there's something really profound about that, right? Like, we're talking about the moon, we're talking about the people, and we
Mhm.
land on like the,
The goddess.
to just, yeah, to sound like a complete new age, but we land on goddess energy, which I think is
Mhm.
something really beautiful.
And I think we need more of, the more people lean into conversation to kind of feeling out how they want to make their decisions and that kind of stuff, the more they'll make decisions that do feel aligned with what we were talking about earlier of aligning your action with your heart-led indication.
Yes. Do you leave when do you leave town? What do you have going on?
So I leave a week from Wednesday, which is why I'm working ahead so much this week. So yeah, I'm here this week doing a lot of work ahead. We're launching. It's funny, we're actually doing an overview of ancient pantheons. Em and me,
Okay.
we're calling it Deity Academy. We're going to go through all the different mythos things in 4 different seminars over the summer. So that
Mhm.
launches today. I'm very excited about it. Been doing a lot of research, reaching out to other sources to get really good quality integrity sources. It's going to be super fun. So that's launching today, and I'm just working with my Patreon. I launched a student tier so that you'll have access to consultations with me through that tier, but also monthly lessons that we'll
Yeah.
do and some live recordings in addition to all the other things in Patreon.
Fantastic. And so we won't see you. There'll be no Ask Me Astros what weeks?
So
We're gonna
next
be
week we're good. Next
Yeah.
week we're good. The week after we're taking a break, and then I'm back at it the week after. So I
Okay,
only
good.
miss
So we're
one.
only gonna miss a beat. We're gonna miss one.
I'll be
Maybe I'll
back
see
just
if I
in
can
time
get
for the
a
eclipse.
huh?
I'll be back just in time for the eclipse.
Maybe I'll see if I can get a guest co-host, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, no one replaces you, of course, but
Well, thank you.
maybe, oh my God, what if I could get Gabe to guest co-host? I mean, Gabe's here all the
Dude.
time.
Yeah.
Gabe,
Gabe's
nice to meet
available.
you. Ask Me Astros. Um, Yeah, I'm about to launch a class this week too with my friend Cameron. We are launching a astrology for writers, writing for astrology
Oh, nice.
workshop where we're going to be going through um uh, Cameron's amazing. She's a PhD in literature, and so she's put together this sort of gorgeous syllabus of um writings by these writers.
Yeah.
And we're going to be going through their charts, looking at the reading the works of these writers and then looking at their charts to sort of
I love
see
that.
how story builds out of astrology. So everybody, I will be sharing news about that on Instagram and all the places, but the best
Mhm.
part is just everyone, just my shameless plug as I do every week. Follow me on Substack. It's
Yep.
free. You can pay me. I love support. It helps. But I just also released an amazing interview with a writer named Bet Williams. It's one of my favorite I've done so far. So I will
Nice.
probably be like sending you the link personally to that because I'm so
Mhm.
stoked about it. So
Cool.
this has been wonderful.
This was fun.
Okay. Okay. And
Awesome.
thank you everyone who's joined. This is great. We have multiple platforms. This is like so exciting. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's been good. And to be able to stream it all over has been really fun too. I love this. Great option. And to use a real microphone instead of the dinky one. Yeah.
see you all next week and have a
Yeah.
beautiful week. Okay.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.